Okay, so good afternoon again and welcome back to the last leg of our session. So this afternoon we are going to discuss other laws on women and children. So this is just connected to our previous discussion on Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2012. So again, people might ask, why are there laws on protection of men? No? So as I have mentioned, men are considered to be strong and women and children are considered to be weak. But nowadays, gun is that definition already. So, well, do not think that these laws do not also, there are, the men in our society are not also protected by our laws. We have other laws that equally protects men and women. Okay? So, what are these laws protecting women in the Philippines? So, we have the Expanded Maternity Leave Law, signed into law on February 2019 by President Rodrigo Duterte, Republic Act 11210, or the Expanded Maternity Leave Law, which extend the 60-day leave to, or 78 days for cesarean section for women who gave birth. So that is a paid leave from 60 normal delivery or 78 cesarean section to 105 days. Uniform na siya. No? So this law entails an option to extend for additional 30 days of unpaid leave. Additional 15 days paid maternity leave shall also be granted to female solo parents. Now what about the men? Of course we have the paternity leave. 7 days leave with pay for fathers or husbands. Now the thing is, the Expanded Maternity Leave Law, these are for women who may or may not be married. But if for men, the paternity leave law requires that the husband or the man who will avail of the paternity leave law, the 7 days paid paternity leave law, should be married or living with the wife who just gave birth. No? So, parang mao na siya ang kinahanglan para maka-avail ang lalaki. Ang babae, dili kinahanglan nga minyo, no? Dili kinahanglan nga kasado para maka-avail siya. It is important nga nahatag lang ni nanganak siya, no? Whether cesarean section or normal delivery. Uniform na karon 105 days. Okay? Now, RA 6725 prohibits discrimination with respect to terms and conditions of employment solely on basis of sex. Now, under this law, any employer favoring a male employee over a female in terms of promotion, training opportunities, and other benefits solely on account of sex is considered discrimination. Okay? Then the next is the famous RA 9262, or the Anti-Violence Against Women and Children Act of 2004. Now, every barangay now is mandated to establish their own women's desk. So in your barangays here in the city, now if you have problems, no, pertaining to if there's abuse in your homes, the women, the wife, or the children are being abused by the husband or the live-in partner, for that matter. Now you may go first and to the women's desk in your barangays if you do not opt to go to the CSWD or the police station. Now, under this law, different kinds of violence are also considered offensive against women and children. So, it might not only be physical violence. There might be emotional abuse. There might be psychological abuse or financial abuse. So, it may happen that the women or the children are not physically battered or abused, but it could happen that they're emotionally or physically or emotionally or psychologically or financially abused. So if the husband will not give any kind of financial support, then that is financial abuse. If the husband might not physically abuse the wife but consistently like show her text messages coming from other persons that would emotionally hurt the wife, or would show the wife, would let the wife know that he is like having a relationship with another person, and then that would constitute an emotional abuse. Okay? So, in this law, RA 9262, the offender might not only be the husband. For as long as the male or this offender has a dating relationship with the woman, that makes him liable. If he abuses the woman, that makes him liable for RA 9262. So dili kinahanglan nga minyo gyud sila, no? Sufficient na nga naa sila'y dating relationship, no? Na uyab or ex-boyfriend or ex-husband. How about textmate? Mabiolate ba na sa textmate? No? Can textmates be sued for a violation of this law? Kung saan nila pag-abuse, kung wala sila'y physical contact, so wala, no? Dili, no? Kaya na sila'y physical contact. Now, what is important also under this law is the definition of a battered woman syndrome. No? Natin gitawag nga battered woman syndrome. Now, under this law, if a woman has been consistently physically battered by the husband, and this woman was able to report this fact to the authorities, kinahanglan mo report gyud ka ha, dili kinahanglan nga imo dyan ang itago sa imong kagalingon, imo ginang isumbong sa mga authorities para ma-consider ka nga battered wife. So, if in the process of being battered or physically battered by your spouse, mubaws ka, ang imo sang pasakitan ang imong husband, that will exempt you from criminal liability. No? So, nagani uban diha, in the process, mapatay nimo ang imong husband kay murag psychologically, nadaot na gyud ka kay you're physically abused by your partner or your husband. Now, that might exempt you. If proven that you are suffering from battered woman syndrome, that might exempt you from criminal liability. Okay? Now, the next is RA 7882, the act that provides provision of assistance to women engaging in micro and cottage business enterprises and for other purposes. This was approved in 1995. And then we have the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act of 1995. Now actually, we now have another law pertaining to sexual harassment, but this law, RA 7877, this only relates to sexual harassment which has relation to employment, training, or education related. So, kinsa may mga perpetrators ani. So, normally, may tabo ni siya sa trabahoan, sa eskwelahan, but dili sa balay. Okay? So, ang kanang sa balay, mao na siya ang musod ang bawse. But if the abuse happens in the office, musod ni siyang Sexual Harassment Act of 1995. Who can be offenders of sexual harassment? Now, it can be the teacher, the trainer, the boss in the office. Now, Sexual Harassment Act of 1995, as I would always tell my students, no? Sexual Harassment Act of 1995 is always about power. Now, under this act, it is imperative that the offender should have moral ascendancy over the offended party. No? So, kinahanglan ang offended party, ato pa ng pinulungan, under sa offender. No? So, kung teacher ka, kinahanglan ang offender, mas taas nimo supervisor. No? Kung empleyado ka, kinahanglan ang offender, mas taas nimo ranggo. No? Dili na siya mosulod kung equal mo og ranggo, because what is important in RA 7877 is that the offender should always have moral ascendancy over the offended party. But this is not only for women. No? The offended party can also be a man. So pwede na siya, ang teacher nga babae mo'y nagharas sa student nga lalaki. No? So mura na siya og kung estudyante ka o teacher ang imong boyfriend, na automatically mosulod ni siya nga law. But it's a matter of evidence kung maabot ni siya sa korte. Okay, so remember, this law is about training, employment, and education related. So normally, ang mga teachers, ang mga offenders ani, ang mga boss sa trabahoan. So as I've said, applicable ni sa both male and female offended party. Okay. Then we have RA 8353 or the Anti-Rape Law of 1997. So bag-o ni siya nga anti-rape law. Naman tayo anti-rape law nga daan, but kini siya gi-amend ni siya to include other aspects of rape, no? The state, under this law, the state states that any person having carnal knowledge of a woman through force, threat, or intimidation, or by means of fraudulent machinations or grave abuse of discretion will be punished. So woman ha, babae. But later, makasabot nga pwede po na siya makommit sa into a man. Okay? Now, depending on the severity of the case, the offense may be punishable by reclusion perpetua or life imprisonment. Okay? Now, RA 8505, excuse me. The next is the Rape Victim Assistance and Protection Act of 1998. Is RA 8505 declares the policy of the state to provide necessary assistance and protection to rape victims. So, the government shall coordinate its various agencies and non-government organizations to work hand in hand for the establishment and operation of rape crisis center in every province and city that shall assist and protect rape victims in the litigation of their cases and their recovery. Then we have RA 9710, the famous Magna Carta of Women. So, it is a comprehensive women's rights law that seeks to eliminate discrimination through the recognition, protection, fulfillment, and promotion of the rights of Filipino women, especially those belonging to the marginalized sector of society. It conveys a framework of rights for women based directly on international law. Now, under this Magna Carta of Women, under this Magna Carta of Women, there is what we call as the gynecological leave benefit. So, if a woman undergoes operation concerning her reproductive organ, she will be given a 2-month leave with pay. So, under this law. So, for example, gitanggalan ka og matris, so you can avail of the gynecological leave under the RA 9710, the Magna Carta of Women. So 2 months na siya paid leave, no? Okay. Then RA 6949, National Women's Day. This declares the March 8 of every year a special working holiday. Unfortunately, working na siya. But at least it is recognized, women are recognized to have their day, no? The National Women's Day on every March 8. No? So, this ensures meaningful observance of the holiday where all heads of the government agencies and instrumentalities, including government-owned and controlled corporations, as well as local government units and employers and private sector, shall encourage and afford sufficient time and opportunities for the employees to engage and participate in any activity conducted within the premises of their respective offices or establishment to celebrate the National Women's Day. So, kung nakinumdum mo aning adlaw, mao ni siya katong nagsuot ta og murag almost 1 month or 1 week na nagsuot tag violet, no? Mo atong National Women's Day in observance of the National Women's Day. Then, for the laws on children, we have PD 603, the Child and Youth Welfare Code. And then this legally defines special categories of youth, including youthful offenders, and the Ministry of Social Services. This is an old law which provide comprehensive services to assist in youth development. Now, na-amend na siya karon, mao na siya karon atong gisud sa atong child abuse law, no? Mga amendments ani nga law. So, as I have said, RA 7610, the Child Abuse Law, or the Special Protection of Children Against Child Abuse, Exploitation, and Discrimination. So, I guess this is a very common topic for the teachers and students. This had been the topic of many seminars and conferences, no? Murag familiar na gyud kay nato. What constitute child abuse? Remember lang ko sa una, sa elementary pa ko, no? Where corporal punishment is allowed pa. No? So, swerte mo karon nga mga estudyante kay di na mo ibuwad sa init, di na mo pa dupahon pa pabutangan og libro nga ni makasa mo or sit on the air, mag-squat, no? Wala na karon di na pwede. So di na gani mo pwede karon kasab-an mo tuda-tuda sa inyong mga teacher. So that's why many students nowadays sila pud mahadlok sa teacher. So una kami Sigahan lamig mataw, ano mo kupos na mi. Okay, imagine kag ibuwad kas init or sit on the air. Okay, allowed pa man ang corporal punishment sa una. But with the enactment of this law, really na siya pwede. That is deemed to be child abuse already. Okay? Now, RA 8370 or Children's Television Act of 1997 was enacted to promote and encourage the production and broadcasting of developmentally appropriate television programs for children through the administration of National Endowment Fund for Children's Television. So ang atong media karon, ang atong mga TV karon, they are mandated to observe this law to protect our children. Okay? Kung sa unang panahon, ang mga bata schedule biya patan og TV, no? So yun ta. Kada ka TV, nigkumani mo assignment. Karon kanyo naman pwede. And pwede po ta mo access sa TV through internet. So, di na gyud kapugngan. So, that's why our media production companies are mandated to observe this law to protect our children viewers. So, again, we have the VAUSE, the Violence Against Women and Their Children Act. So, we have RA 9344, the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Act. Mao ni akong giingon ganina nga it mandates that offenders below 15 years of age wala sila criminal liability kay they are considered to have no discernment yet. Sila kabalo sa ilang gibuhat. Bisag karon nakabalo na ginito na sila. Bisag gani 10-year-old karon butan ang gani. Now sir, there were clamors for the amendment of this law because children are now recruited for illegal activities because they are being protected from criminal liability by virtue of this law. Okay? Now, the Anti-Bullying Act of 2003. So, all schools are mandated to make their own policies regarding anti-bullying. So, we have the DepEd Child Protection Policy, di ba? So, kini siya, ato po na siya isod sa atong Child Protection Council. So, the Child Protection Council of every institution, of every school, is mandated to have their policy regarding anti-bullying. No? Part ni siya sa DepEd Child Protection Policy. And then we have the Anti-Rape Law of 1997, mga akong gimension ganina, or RA 8353. So, this can be violated in two ways. The first is when a man who shall have carnal knowledge of a woman under the following circumstance, through force, threat, or intimidation, and then for offended party is deprived of reason or otherwise unconscious, and by means of fraudulent machinations. Now, even if it is committed with consent, if the offended party is a child or is demented, no, naidiferensya siyang pangutok, that is still rape. So even if akong iyong ganina, ang bata may nisulod sa kwarto, mo nang hagad, no? Or kining naidiferensya mo ay ni duol, ning gakos, ning sabak, ning higda sa katrin, ning ngadto sa kwarto. Still, that is considered rape under our law by virtue of Republic Act 8353. Okay? So, this kind of rape, this can only be committed by a man against a woman through sexual intercourse. So, you should not forget, if it is with a child, it can be committed with or without the consent of the child. It is called a statutory rape. The second way this rape is being committed under this act is by any person. So nana mo so din ang mga lalaki, no? Under any of the circumstances shall commit an act of sexual assault by inserting his penis into another person's mouth or anal orifice. So dili kinahanglan nga lalaki to babae. Okay, what is being mentioned here, any person will insert his penis to another person's mouth or anal orifice. So this can be committed by a man to another man. Okay, or any instrument or object into the genital or anal orifice of another person. So pwede po na siya mag-commit sa babae against sa lalaki if the girl inserts an object into the genital or anal orifice of another person. Okay, did you get it? So there are two forms of rape under RA 8353 actually, no? Or three. Ako na siya i-consider nga three. Ang first katong forced nga carnal knowledge, gipugos to have sex with the female, gipugos ang babae. The second is, it could be sex with consent, but the offended party is a child below 12 years old. Automatically, it is rape. Okay? Or, the offended party is demented, no? Psychologically, naa siya problema. Rape kaya po na siya. And the third form is committed by any person, no? Against any person sad, babae o lalaki, by, number 1, inserting his penis into the mouth of another person or anal orifice, or inserting an object into the genital or anal orifice of a man or a woman. Pwede na siya babae to babae, babae to lalaki, lalaki to lalaki. Okay? So, this kind of rape, mga natong giyong karon nga rape nga, pwede na di ang rape karon nga ang offended party, lalaki. No? So, rape, po na siya. Kung magkuha kag stick, imo isuksok sa lubot, just for, nga purpose lang, dili, kuan nga purpose. So, that is the rape. No? Rape, po na siya. So, nalagyan po protection karon ng mga laki against rape. Okay? But, when you speak of normal or sexual intercourse, wherein maingon ka nga, kanada ma'am, gipugos din ko niya ma'am, pag-sex, no? Ang lalaki ko, no? Ipugos sa babae. They are both of age, ha? Ang babae, ningadto sa room sa lalaki, yang gipugos to have sexual intercourse. Normally, kung pinugos na siya, whether it's force, intimidation, or violence, that is rape kung ang offended party is a woman. Pero kung lalaki, is the rape? Nanay rape o wala? Wala. No? So, the only way in which ma-rape ang lalaki under RA 8353 is by the insertion of the penis to his mouth or anal orifice, or the insertion of any object, no, to his genital or anal orifice. Klaro? Okay. Then we have RA 7658, an act prohibiting the employment of children below 15 years of age in public and private undertakings. So under this law, children below 15 years of age shall not be employed except, no, na may exception, when the child works directly under the sole responsibility of his parents or legal guardian, and where only members of the employer's family are employed. So pwede di ay magtrabaho kung ang imong gitrabahoan inyong family business, no? Provided, however, that his employment neither endangers his life, safety, health, and morals, nor impairs his moral development. So, for example, your family is engaged into a business of bars, no? Kanang pub house. Nya ang anak nga minor, gihimong waitress, no? Is that allowed? Is it a violation of this law? Yes. Although business na siya sa family, but that kind of business or that kind of work impairs, no, the morality or normal development of the child. Okay? And provided further that the parent or legal guardian shall provide the said minor child with the prescribed primary and secondary education. So, daghan karon mga bata sa barangay nga di na mga eskwela kay gipapangupras ilang nanay tatay. No? That is a clear violation of this law. Ang problema lang kay kasi may mo reklamo. Kaya ang bata may man po siya, ang man pud mamong di pud ko muliho ko man po'y pagkaon akong nanay tatay, kay akong nanay tiguwang na akong tatay hubog ining kabuntag di na mo trabaho kay namtog. No? So, luoy kay mga bata. Kung walay reklamo, walay kaso, but that is a violation of this law. Kaya, dapat gud pa eskwelahon gud ang mga bata. No? Okay. So, employment of children, and a child's employment or participation in public entertainment and information through cinema, theater, radio, or television is essential. Nakabantay mo sa mga teleserye or mansama ni mga commercial at teleserye na bata, di ba? At the end sa salida sa kada episode, naibutang nila nga naani permit obtained from DOLE for the child to be employed. Di ba? Naagi na ibutang na nila. Okay, there has to be a permit. Okay. The employer shall also ensure the protection, health, safety, morals, and normal development of the child. The employer shall institute measures to prevent the child's exploitation or discrimination, taking into account the system and level of remuneration and the duration and arrangement of working time. So dili pwede ang bata patrabaho o no graveyard, naman tawag og graveyard shift. No, kanang hantod kadlawon hantod buntagay. No, because it is inimical to the health of the child. So ang shooting adto gina-held sa buntag o sa hapon, ang tagaan gyud og time ang bata i-prioritize gyud ang iyang kaayuhan sa bata. Okay? So the employer shall formulate and implement, subject to the approval and supervision of the competent authorities, a continuing program for training and skills acquisition of the child. So kining mga artista nga mga bata nga maimpid ang ilang pag-eskwela tungod ani mga teleserye, labi niya ning unsara ning dugay na gani kay sa TV, probinsyano, no? Murag pila man katuig ng probinsyano eh. So kung nana sila mga bata nga involved diha, so we would expect ang ilang pag-eskwela na impede na apektuhan gid na, no? Gawa siguro karong pandemic. So kining ABS-CBN, they have to take measures, or ang producer to take measures nga ang pag-eskwela sa bata ilag yun ang tagaan ng priority. So naaman tayo mga special arrangement aning mga bataa. So pwede na sila mo-eskwela not in the normal kind of learning, pero pagitaan gina sila way sa management nga padayon sila sa ilang pag-eskwela while being artista also. Okay? In the above exceptional cases where any such child may be employed, the employer shall first secure before engaging in such a work permit from the Department of Labor and Employment. Mana kung yung ganina nga kada human sa episode nagi ipakita diha nga na-permit na obtain for the participation of this child in this particular teleserye, no, or a movie. So, the Department of Labor and Employment shall promulgate rules and regulations necessary to the effective implementation of this section. Okay, with that, we have to end our 4-day series of lectures on Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2012 and other laws on women and children. I hope you learned something from our discussion, and we become advocates to stop or to eliminate human trafficking and use whatever knowledge that we have from this discussion. Remember that according to Ernie Baron, knowledge is power. And let me end this discussion with this one of my favorite quotes from Google. We alone will not be able to change the world, but we can cast a stone to the waters and create ripples. Good afternoon.